Okay, everybody, here we are on the 2017 GSXR 1000, 2016 GSXR 1000, 14,600 US dollars on this bad boy. And this is Suzuki's all-new leader bike for this year. You know, this bike was really hotly anticipated. They came out with it actually, you know, a couple years ago, but they held off from releasing it, and now we have it here in our hands, quite literally. We just got done riding it on around Circuit of the Americas, around the 3.42 mile, epically awesome 20 turn, fabulous, fast, hard braking, slow corners, fast corners. Got done riding it there, and it was absolutely, totally awesome. And now we're gonna ride it on the street. For the track side of that review, make sure you follow us at ridersdomain.com, where we have a separate track review. For now, here's the street analysis on this thing. So, you know, I say this a million times, I'm a big Suzuki GSX-R fan. You know, I've owned a couple of them over the years, had a couple stolen out of the parking lot over the years. I just really like these motorcycles. They really just, they fit my whole riding dynamic. If you watch all the YouTube videos, you'd think I'm riding on the track all the time. In reality, I do 90% of my riding on the street, probably like a lot of you. So, I need to have a bike that is comfortable on the street and that won't beat up my legs or my wrists, won't give me any problems, yet is extremely fast, extremely competent, handles good. I need something that's really sharp. You know, riding out here on the street, it can be dangerous. There's a lot of traffic, things are happening really quick, and you really want to have a performance motorcycle. You want to have something that accelerates fast, that brakes hard, that's very nimble. Those are features you actually want on the street. But above that, you want something that's easy to control. You know, something that you could give your grandma, put it in C mode and be like, here grandma, put traction control on level 10 C mode and go ride. And you know what? She could probably do it on this GSXR 1000. It is a pretty easy leader class sport bike to ride. You know, just sitting on it here, I can feel that the ergos are very standard GSXR-like. And what I mean by that is it's a good balance between wrist down, tuck position, speed, and upright coziness. Suzuki eliminated the adjustable rear sets on this motorcycle, so on the previous GSXR you could actually move the rider's foot pegs fore, aft, up or down, and I really like that feature. That was an excellent feature in my book. But that feature's going away, and now we're on just the standard fixed rear sets, just like pretty much every other major leader bike these days. But you know what? It works. You know, right away I can tell that this rider triangle is not going to be, it's not going to beat me up a little at all. It definitely is a little bit more aggressive than the previous GSXR. I can tell that the seat is maybe just a little bit higher. The seat's a little bit higher. The angle of the seat angle, like the angle of attack, is a little bit more forward. Puts you in a little bit more sporty position. As always, you know, these Suzuki GSX-Rs, they have really good gearboxes. Their gearboxes are just really solid. They shift between each of the 6 gears really well. The slipper clutch is one of my favorites. At the track yesterday, that slipper clutch came in really handy. Sometimes I downshifted a little bit too, maybe aggressively. I could have been a little smoother, and the slipper clutch just eliminated any chatter or hopping from the back tire, and it kind of helped me actually like square up the corner a little bit by just doing a little bit of a back-it-in maneuver. So very helpful. Suzuki actually modified the internals of the clutch. They went to a lighter or a reduced clutch spring design, and the pull out of the lever is a lot easier. I'm using 2 fingers right now, and it's not a strain at all, and I don't have exceptionally strong hands by any means, so I like that. On Suzuki's GSX-R, this thing has traction control. So this is the first Suzuki sport bike with actual traction control. You can see the numbers changing right there. 10 is the most restrictive setting, while 1 is the least restrictive setting, and then we have off. Yesterday, I really enjoyed setting 2. 3 was a little bit too much. 1 was a little bit too little, so let's just start with 2. We're going to do it 2. Another thing that returns is Suzuki's SDMS system, which is actually adjustable power modes. Now, Suzuki was the first company to use this system, I think on the maybe 2007 GSXR1000, sorry, if my memory serves me correctly, and I really like it. Generally, I rode in A mode on that previous model because that was, full juice, but B mode and C mode would reduce the power slightly. So if you were riding in the wet, I remember a couple times we did track days in the wet, so I'd start off in B or C mode, probably B mode, and then, as the track dried out, go into A mode. It also works good if you're having a friend ride your bike. I know that sounds kind of silly, but these days, who knows? So if you have a friend riding your bike, you can let them, modify the power, put it in a mellow setting. I could probably put my girlfriend on this machine, put it in C mode, and she'd do just fine. It reduces the intensity of the engine's power, just makes it smoother, easier to ride. Really good if you're riding on unfamiliar surfaces or in thick traffic where you're lane splitting, if you're in California, of course, and you need a bike that's real nimble, and you're not going fast, you're going 25 miles per hour through traffic. It's perfect for that. So right now we're in B mode. I spent most of the day on the track in A mode, and A mode was cool, but it was a little bit, I think, because Circuit of the Americas is such a start-stop track where you're going, from 5th gear down to 1st gear a lot. You're using 1st gear a lot because there's a lot of tight hairpin pins. So 1st gear paired with that, most aggressive A power delivery, and I thought the throttle response was a little bit too strong for me. So I put it in B mode a little bit, which smoothens things out a little bit. Almost makes it feel like A mode in the old GSX-R. So a little bit smoother, and if you know me, you know that I like smooth stuff. I like smooth engines, I like smooth throttles, I like good smooth suspension. Smooth is the word that defines what I like in a motorcycle. And thankfully that's what this GSX-R is. Right now we're in 2nd gear, and even though Suzuki went to even more over square engine with 1.5 millimeter wider pistons, this thing still has some good torque, which is actually surprising because we're only at 5,000 RPM right now. So it's got some good torque, and credit Suzuki's variable valve timing engineering mechanism. So what this thing does is it comprises of 12 ball bearings, and they actually, when they're spinning, it's set up where it can actually modify the cam timing. So it can modify the cam timing based on engine speed. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a little bit more torque and mid-range grunt at low RPM, but still have, wailing top end when you get this thing revving at 14,500 red line. And a lot of these leader bikes are going to these, super over square designs. Everyone likes to rev their bikes, and that's what this GSX-R is all about too. But still, like, for a bike that's got that more over square design, it has considerable torque. I'm really surprised. I don't see a lot of other leader bikes that have this kind of torque at low RPM with the over square design. So very pleased overall with that, for sure. Well, this bike has a non-electronic quick shifter, so there's no quick shifter fitted as a standard fare on this thing. And I would like to have seen that. Yes, the Suzuki's price tag is an incredible value at $14,600, but I would like to see a quick shifter on that. Not so much for the street. It doesn't really matter so much on the street, I don't think. But on the track, it would have been a helpful thing. Scrolling through the menu here, it's got average, MPG. You can adjust the screen brightness. Oh, it has instant MPG too. Do you see that little bar graph that goes up and down? Right now we're getting 60, 99 MPGs. What are we getting now? Oh, not so good. So right now we're in top gear. We're cruising at 72 miles per hour. We're spinning just over 5,000 RPM. And, you know, Suzuki did modify the transmission and final drive gearing, and it's a little bit more close ratio than before. What that means is it allows the engine to get to its top end a little bit quicker. It just spins up faster. So, you know, when you're shifting through the gears, it's easier to keep the engine in the meaty part of the power band, which is actually pretty surprisingly wide for an over-square engine. Yet, at this RPM, there really isn't a whole lot of engine vibration. I mean, I can feel a little bit, but it's not off-putting to me. You know, definitely you can feel it, but I don't really mind. I think it's cool. And just opening the throttle like that, you can hear Suzuki's just that intake howl, that whoa! Like, that's one thing that's always really attracted me to Suzuki GSX-R sport bikes, is they have the sound. You know, Japanese motorcycle manufacturers typically get a bad rap for making motorcycles that are too bland, too vanilla. I mean, how many times have you read a motorcycle magazine that's like, oh, it's too vanilla, it's too bland? Well, you know, that's been true, but a lot of the Japanese companies, another brand especially, has really started to integrate a lot of character in their motorcycles. But Suzuki's been doing that since day one with this GSX-R, and they have that character, a ton of it, you know, and it's a different take. It's that classic screaming, roaring engine wail, and it sounds cool. It's fun to ride. I was riding real close behind Kenny Roberts JR 2500cc GP champ Kenny Roberts JR yesterday on the track, and I was so close I could literally hear the sound of the engine coming out of the muffler. And I noticed that the engine actually sounds a little bit different this year. I can't really describe what it sounds like. It's almost like it's gonna sound kind of corny, but it's really almost kind of like a high-tech, you know, MotoGP GSX-R sound. Obviously it's muffled down to extremely low 92 decibels, I'm sure, but you can tell that character and that pedigree is in this GSX-R. You know, that same MotoGP pedigree is in this bike. You know, I'd love to get this thing on a Dynojet dyno and see where it'll spin on the drum. Just basing on, you know, what I think and what I know about the bike from having it wailed on it all day yesterday, I would have to say that this bike probably is gonna put out, I would have to say, at the back tire, 169, 170 horsepower, 172, yeah, probably 169 if I was a betting man. 169 on the back tire. And, you know, that's probably about 10 more horsepower, you know, 8 to 10 more horsepower than the previous GSXR 1000. So it's not a whole bunch more power, but that's the thing about these Suzuki GSX-Rs. As they come out of the factory, there's a lot of performance built into them, engineered into them. You just need to uncork them. And that's probably what's going to be the case with this bike. Once you change the ECU code, everything these days is like, where back in the day, these super bikes, to get more power, you'd make mechanical changes. Well, these days you make electronic changes to make more power. I mean, mechanical changes still do help, obviously, but you're going to start with the electronics. That's where the basic amount of power is. So I think once you uncork these bikes and, you know, change the coating a little bit, I think you're going to get a lot of juice out of these things. know, the Oshimir team's already proven that the bike's a winner. You know, here at COTA, Tony Elias won both Superbike races. It wasn't easy, but he did it. And that just shows you the prowess, the racing prowess of the GSXR 1000R. And they haven't even really got a lot of time, seat time or testing time on that bike. Once, you know, a full season is complete, those things will really be on the gas, I bet you anything. Now, this standard GSXR 1000, it comes with the classic spec, we'll say, Showa BPF fork. This is a fork I've logged tens of thousands of miles on the street, on the track, on the everywhere, and I like the fork. You know, when Showa first came out with that technology, I think in 2009, it was, or late 2008, it was a big step forward for motorcycle suspension. You know, the damping piston is just a lot bigger, it flows more oil, it just allows for greater precision in suspension movement, and I liked it a lot. But fast forward to 2017, and the suspensions, it's not the latest and greatest. It definitely rides really nice on the street. I really can't fault it here on the road at all. I can't believe, now that we're talking about it, how plush the suspension on this bike is. It's plush, but not soft. But still, I would have liked to have seen the higher spec suspension. I wish I could have ridden that GSXR 1000R that comes outfitted with the latest and greatest balance-free stuff from Showa. Well, the price of admission on that bike is 17 grand, so a little bit more expensive than this 14.6 standard bike, but for my money, I would spend the extra dough to get the GSXR 1000R. That's just kind of how I am. Like, I would want that balance-free fork. I've ridden it before on the track, and it works really good. So I would spend the money for the GSXR 1000R, most certainly. Also, looking at the passenger seat, a lot of you guys might ride with your lady, and the passenger seat on this bike is not too bad looking. Didn't bring her, obviously, on this trip, but I wouldn't hesitate throwing her on the back. I know some of the other Japanese sport bikes, not going to mention any names because I'm not a hater, but they have pretty skimpy back seats that are kind of slippery and not so good for riding with a passenger. Well, the seat on this GSXR is pretty wide, pretty long. I think it'll be pretty good for a passenger. I'm looking at a colleague of mine from Cycle World, Mark Hoyer's bike right here, and I see that red LED taillight, and I really like the look of it. You know, it's very bright and easy to see. It looks just kind of futuristic. It's just really sharp looking. I think it's cool. But, you know, if you saw this bike in the parking lot, you're gonna know it's a GSXR. Some people think they look silly, some people think they look cool. I personally like the styling of this bike. I have to say, on this quick initial little ride on the GSXR 1000, it's a mighty fine street bike. I knew it would be. GSXRs are always great street bikes. And if you're looking for that bike that can, you know, do it all, you know, be comfortable on the street, commute to work, carve canyons, do track days on, you know, never ever break, never ever have a mechanical problem. I mean, Suzuki's GSXRs are legendary in their quality. They never break. They just go for hundreds of thousands of miles and adjust the valves, change the oil, replace the clutch, brake pads, chain sprockets, tires. These things will go forever. And if you want a more modern twist on that GSXR, this is the bike.